Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some and or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have Microsoft to vote on investing in Bitcoin at December 10th meeting. Little breakdown on that incoming today. Got crypto exchange Kraken announcing its own L2 called Inc. Got a breakdown coming there. And GPT-2 runs to a $45 million market cap with a Sam Altman rumor before crashing down to 2 million as the AI meta continues. We've also got the latest on price action in crypto and NFTs, an awesome conversation with Bing from Mega ETH. We hope that is scheduled in true live fashion. We are going to be playing that by ear to see whether that does take place as intended. We hope it does. So stay tuned for that, or just a greater discussion on the market in general. And we have Legendary and Bread in the co-host seats today. We're ready to get into it. But just before we do that, as a reminder, friends, that nothing that we say here is financial advice, unfortunately, because it's just so risky. We can't call anything for sure. We can't even guarantee what's going to happen on the show because of the live nature. So please do exercise your own judgment and proceed with caution. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Friday, the 25th of October. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Jim, I'm pretty excited. I'm about to complete basically my first week in the meme trenches, about to start the second weekend of trading in those very trenches. It's been very, very entertaining. A lot of stories to share, kind of reminding me of the fun that we had with aping into NFTs in the last cycle. I told you initially I was like a bit skeptical about that, but now I can see the joy, the fun, the entertainment in that. So that's good. On the other hand, we've also been working on something big for the modern market, which we're about to finish. Very, very excited about that. Let's see when or if we can speak to that a bit more. It would be a massive, massive thing. So lots of things moving, lots of positive things and fun in the trenches. I'm in a good mood today.
Yeah, you are in a good mood. That's a very good mood. Positive meme action, positive confidential information, price movements, modern market movements. I enjoy it. Feels good going into this weekend. Bread, how are you doing? A little bit of a location switch up from your perspective. How's the movements going?
And you no doubt noticed the move in location because of this amazing influencer light that I have in front of me. You see this glow that I have? It's because I got like this ring light thing in front of me. It's pretty convenient, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, we moved places. I flexed on everyone this morning because I got some $3 breakfast, like bowl of pho, some other noodles and stuff. It's amazing. So still bouncing around Vietnam, having a good time. Went to pick up my shirt that was going to be made. Another little custom tailored one, cheap as shit, kind of fun. And now I'm ready to talk crypto.
I love it. So out of these various journeys, you have become a little bit of a travel influencer at the same time. Which of these breakfast meals is your go-to Southeast Asian breakfast meal?
Yeah, I'm a noodle fiend these days, so I keep going back to the pho.
Okay.
Or yeah, like there's a couple here where I'm at that are like noodles you can only get in this town because of like the way that they're made. They make some special lye and some other shit. Cow lo, I think is what they're called. But yeah, awesome. So it's just keep going back to the noodles.
I am so
I see.
degenerate. I hear those things. I hear the noodles are only made in this town, and all I can think about is what would make for a good ticker. I am in trenches brain.
Yeah,
I don't have any
we're
of
not
those for
going
you.
that route. We're not going down that route on this show. Not just yet. Anyway, it's not that part of the cycle where we just create tickers live on the show from Bread's breakfast recommendations.
Not like Nick. Nick just did that, didn't he? Get Rich Nick, yeah.
Yeah, they did. Pretty fun, I think. Well, for the people who might have made some money. Look, let's get into it, starting with the price action. As always, going to get into the headlines as usual and a bigger discussion on all of the above. Bitcoin is just up 1% in the last 24 hours at 67.8K. ETH is also up 1% to 2.5K. Solana is flat at $173. A lot being made of Solana's outperformance and strength there. ETH's relative weakness to the rest. In terms of the headlines themselves, we've got Microsoft to vote on investing in Bitcoin at December 10th meeting. There's a pretty important distinction to be made here, which Legendary will break down in just a little bit. It's not quite as obvious or as bullish as you might necessarily think. Crypto exchange Kraken announces its own L2 Inc. We've got all kinds of interesting notes from the founder of Blockworks, from a conversation with the founder of Inc., which we'll be discussing a little bit later, as well as, I guess, a bigger discussion on L2s and what the direction is going in. Brett's obviously an expert in that arena. And then finally, GPT-2 token runs to a $45 million market cap yesterday with Sam Altman rumor, before crashing down to $2 million as the AI meta continues. We've got a bit of a summary there, and Legendary's got some personal experience to discuss in just a little bit. Some notable sales from around the space: Pudgy Penguin Wizard selling for 11 ETH. Beeple Bull Run, again, Beeple continuously in the notable sales at the moment, 10.5 ETH, and Xcopy Grifter sold for 9 ETH in the last 24 hours. Those are some of the notable sales and the headlines and price action. Legendary, let's head to the NFT market, see what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with Bored Apes. Bored Apes down another percent over the last 24 hours, sitting at a 11.66 ETH floor. Pudgy's also down 1%. They did lose the 9 ETH floor, sitting at 8.97 at the moment. Azuki's are up 1% compared to yesterday, sitting at a 5.1 ETH floor. And finally, Milady's up another 3% at a 4.84 ETH floor. Another collection that I wanted to point out is one that I haven't seen in quite a while, Heads by Matt Fury. It's a rather small collection with a 1K supply, sitting at a 1.75 ETH floor, but it's up 30%, 32% actually now over the last 24 hours, as it saw 10 ETH in volume. So it's not a massive movement, but it's definitely a couple of purchases there, and it's more activity than we've seen in a while, especially also if you look at the data for the last 7 days, where the collection is up 80%. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention as well. And also do the Friday thing of taking a look on the ordinal side of things to see what's going on there. We said that ordinals have seen quite a bit of volume over the last couple of weeks. That momentum seems to be slowing a bit down. Sharing the heat map and the overview on screen right now, it's pretty red. Bitcoin Frogs down 8%, Taproot Witches down 18%, Gizmo the Cat, which saw quite a bit of trending price action, down 20%. And also this trend is not only on the last 24 hours, where, for example, Notemonks are down 3%. They're also down 16% over the last 7 days. So definitely a bit of a reversal on the ordinal side of things.
Interesting stuff. Excellent breakdown on the NFT side. Just a quick update on the meme side. Does seem to be a little bit of a resurgence in the animal coins, if that's the bracket we're going to call them. WIF was up 4%. I thought PopCat was up a lot more than it is, but it looks to have sold off in the last 24 hours as well, down 4, but it went as high as 1.6. So that was, I think, an all-time high for PopCat, but it's pulled back just a little bit from there. Mew went past $1 billion market cap as well at 4.5, up 4.5%. Mog's down a few percent. Nero is up 14%. Goat, the one that everyone's got their eyes on, the AI coin, is at 65 cents, so down almost 20% in the last 24 hours. Some people considering that the AI meta is, losing a little bit of steam. There's definitely been a hell of a lot of coins produced in that arena in the last few days, so maybe an expected pullback to some degree. That's the kind of meme side of things. In terms of the Web3 Roundup, to get up to with everything else that's happened, a few other bits of news from around the space. Pennsylvania passes Bitcoin rights bill to protect rights to self-custody and allow the use of Bitcoin as a payment method. CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, commented, "Nicely done, Pennsylvania. Now let's elect Dave McCormick for Senate to protect our rights at the federal level," wanting to see some type of Bitcoin protection rights enshrined at a federal level instead of just state by state. Next piece of news, $20 million of US government crypto funds move on chain, with Zach XBT considering it to be nefarious or theft. I didn't see much on the timeline about this, but the comments are there from Zach, which suggests that the government assets may have been hacked or been moved around to various locations. So just to make you aware of that. In an interesting piece of news, crypto escrow service with Coinbase to help buyers use crypto to buy real estate. This is from a company called Propy. The new crypto escrow service with Coinbase is live. The service offers secure custody for Bitcoin, ETH, and USDC throughout the entire real estate closing process. I bet that would be super helpful for loads and loads of people as they want to kind of access their crypto capital without having to come into dollars or pounds or euros or whatever before they make their purchase. And Circle CEO thinks stablecoin market has trillions of growth ahead of it over the next decade. That's definitely a bet I think a lot of people are making. Pixel Vault, in more news, relaunches Battle Plan game on Ape Chain with thousands of dollars of prize in Ape. 6 Botto pieces, the decentralized AI art project, sell for a total of $351,000 at Sotheby's. That is definitely an art favorite at the moment on the AI side. Also on the AI side, Truth Terminal becomes the first ever AI hero in Fantasy Top. So I wonder if that would be one of the more popular cards in the Fantasy Top game, which is
it will be.
No,
I don't do the giveaways. I entered in that giveaway because like that thing's gonna bang. Like that, you need that.
Really?
It's relentless. It's an animal. Like it doesn't have to eat, doesn't have to sleep.
Do you think then, Brad, there will be more for the people who are completely unfamiliar? Fantasy Top being the social-fi game where you can trade the cards of your favorite crypto Twitter influencers, creators, and obviously the people with the most reach, the most engagement, have the cards which are worth the most and probably have the most earning power in terms of the points that you can make. Truth Terminal is the AI that is absolutely relentless. Humans cannot compete. Brad, what do you think? What do you think the price of this card could be in the market at the moment?
Yeah, I can't really judge the actual market because I don't actually buy or sell anymore. I mostly just I bought all my stuff months ago. I haven't actually injected more ETH in a long time. I don't know what this stuff sells for. I just keep rolling more and more cards in, which then earns me cards, and then the Ponzi goes on. So it's hard for me to say, but it'll be a couple ETH for sure.
That's wild. That's pretty exciting though. Like Legendary, did I see you comment on this or tweet about it? Like, what was your reflection on seeing an AI enter a human? Well, it's a competition against the rest of humans, right? It's the only AI in there.
A big AI fanboy. I said we'll need to have AI KOL awards at some point, and also that AIs will have better intentions than some humans. So I'm here for it, and I agree with Brett. Truth Terminal is not going to sleep. There's people watching it to find tickers in whatever Truth Terminal is saying. So definitely a different kind of beast when it comes to competing against a human.
Currently ranked number 2 across everything, only behind Mitch, the guy who does all the Pump Fund coin stuff, the Solana dude. And it's being sold right now for 0.3 ETH for the very, very, very basic common one.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. One of the big questions I had as a consequence of this was, how, we've been talking how there's a variety of very, very big crypto companies at the moment who are hiring for the very difficult to hire position, which is the intern, like the crypto intern, which I think Coinbase said or was it Base, that are going to give 200 grand to someone who can basically be that intern style person and, reply in witty ways, produce funny posts, shit posts on the timeline. That's the intention. And I'm aware of another very big, maybe more NFT centric company looking for a similar position. It's a very, very hard position to do. Legendary, you just said that humans can't compete. They don't sleep. Would the AI be the best alternative? If you can train it on the data, have an AI intern for your Web3 company. It seems to be on point.
Can AI learn culture?
For sure. I think, yes, also to Brett's question, AI can learn culture and can be fast about learning culture. And it can learn different cultures. Like, we are very, very centric on speaking about, say, ETH and Solana. And you have people in BNB. You have people in Asia who are using completely different products than we are using. I just recently looked into, what's it called? OneKey hardware wallet that is backed by Coinbase, only hardware wallet that's backed by Coinbase, super popular in Asia, never heard about it here. So there's different cultures, obviously, and you would have your different accounts. Like I think Pudgy Penguins did that with country accounts, etc. We need more people to do that, but an AI can basically learn all of that and process all of that. And I don't think, that's my personal reflection. If I'm entertained by something, I don't care if it's an AI or a human writing that. If I watch a banger show on Netflix, you tell me that was directed by an AI, I'm not going to be, ooh, it's not a human who did it. It's not fun anymore. And if that can put up banging replies and content across the globe and do thousands of them a day and be ubiquitous by doing so, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm increasingly persuaded by this idea. I do think. Remember, we had Chikai on the show on Tuesday, who was the co-founder of Google Earth, and he is now an AI artist doing all kinds of cool things, like a real true technologist. And he was explaining how his vision for this is that it will just allow people to create so much more, that the level of quality will go up so high. So when Legendary saying like, okay, it doesn't really matter who is the producer. Is it a human? Is it an AI? The point is, if you are a human, the quality is going to need to get better because this AI is around. If you are an AI, you're going to, the AI will have to start producing better stuff. The quality in general will just go up. I still wonder, I'm still a big believer in the concept that there will be a premium attached. When it comes to art, I think there will be a premium attached to the human-made content, in the same way that there's a premium attached to a handmade jumper or handmade bag versus a factory-made bag. I think there'll be some kind of equivalent. But I think for maybe, for media, well, for mass commercial product, I don't think it will matter. It depends. Like, you just need to create this niche of maybe a hyper premium product, which you can make some type of argument that it's better to be done by a human. Brad, did you want to come in there?
No, I was a little distracted because I was thinking about Claude, and because Claude just released an update where it allows you to actually take over your PC if you allow it. So I was now extrapolating that in my head of like, yeah, you can actually have it just sit there, and like you can watch it, like look up other tweets and write back the responses and stuff. And I actually just put in a prompt to see if I can get Claude to actually respond like an intern. So I'll let you guys know how it goes here in a few minutes.
Love it. I think you're right, Pichik, with your theory that this will be the human work that is something for the ultra luxury segment. I mean, I'm thinking of how Bentley these days is, advertising themselves as a car company, and they're telling you the stitching on the steering wheel is done by hand. It takes them, I don't know, 12 hours, 20 hours, whatever that was, just to do the stitches, and you think, oh my god, it's perfection. It's done by a human. And I think the same will go for content or art in the future, that will try to position the human labor or the human creativity in some kind of upper echelon, in some kind of luxury segment, and see how that plays out.
Exactly, because I think this already is apparent, where, look, we can do, for example, YouTube thumbnails by AI. It's possible for it to create certain things. However, there's a bespoke way of doing this stuff that looks so much better when you actually do it. And in fact, Legendary, we were speaking the other day about how people might not know this. As part of our YouTube strategy at the moment, we have been leveraging AI for the shorts. So like YouTube shorts have primarily been made with an AI tool where we can take the whole YouTube video, we can paste it into a product, and it suggests to us different windows of the show where it's like, we think this 20 segment is a great clip. We think this 30 segment is a good clip. And we'll go into it. It's like, look, it's like 80% of the way there, maybe 75, 80%. It kind of directs you to reasonable parts. But ultimately, that human selection at the moment is still important. So we're actually sacking it off, and we're going to say, look, it's not quite good enough to really be at the top level. And so we're going to have to get back involved and do it a little bit more manually.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why we are sacking it off is because our strategy is like to do one short a day, and they kind of focus on the quality and not quantity of that. But if you look at the accounts that basically just pull viral content and do Mr. Beast shorts or shorts based off viral reactions, etc., they post like 100 of those a day. And if 80% of them are like well selected, and again 2 or 3 of them then go actually super viral, you have yourself a nice account that you can monetize and do that. And that kind of fits with the like TikTok like strategy, where you only see the top trending viral posts on your feed. And if you actually hit up a creator page, you'll see they have maybe 10 times more videos that you'll never see trending. And that's kind of what AI can do, and focus on the quantity and have like still a reasonable or a very, very good quality threshold. But by we are like limited in resources and focus on one short a day, and we don't want to spam YouTube with 100 shorts made out of one single episode and just see, whatever sticks. That's just not the strategy we've been operating with. For us, it makes more sense to revert and go back to the to the human element for the time being.
Yeah, it made me think, maybe a final point on this before we get into the main headlines for today and a bigger discussion on those. It made me think of even Bread's diagrams, for example. It's like, I'm sure there's a way to industrialize that, get the tech to assist you with it. But the fact that they're so personalized and kind of interwoven into his brand, it makes it
That's
like
how I do
more
it.
endearing, right? That's a real connection with a human and their content. Is that what is your process for doing that, Brett? Just for people who are interested, and why have you taken that path?
Yeah, I use AI for framework similar to what you guys do. Where like I push it over the finish line, but like so I find the thing that's interesting that I want to tell a story about. I collect the data typically, and like sometimes I'll even have it assist me with the data if it's for like doing calculations and shit. I pump it in there and I'll say straight up, give me a relevant graph for this. I want a bar graph. I want a double, like whatever, and then it'll produce it. And if it tells the story I want, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like put brand this basically, and then I put my colors on it, put it in Excalibur, do whatever. But yeah, I use it to kind of shorten the time to spinning up between I think this is a good idea and visualizing that, oh, it is a good idea, I'm going to go forward with it.
I love that. Really important conversation, to be honest. It's not one of our headlines today, but in general, the way that we leverage this stuff moving forward as people who are on the internet all the time is going to really distinguish, I think, some of the top performers from maybe the mid performers and the lower performers, because it's definitely here, the tech's here, and we need to figure out how to leverage it in the best way possible. And we'll always keep reporting on how we take that path as well. So to try to help and educate others on that. Look, we obviously want to get into the main headlines for today, as usual, to bring the week in to a close. We've got the first headline today, which is the Bitcoin. This is a great headline when you just read the one-liner, but I think there's a little bit more depth to it, which Legendary is going to explain. Microsoft to vote on investing in Bitcoin at December 10th meeting. Legendary, why don't you break this down and explain some of the nuance?
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds super bullish, huh? Microsoft is voting whether to purchase Bitcoin as a strategic investment. And the outcome of that is incredibly relevant, as it could set precedents for how large tech companies approach digital investments, approach cryptocurrencies. And that also happens at a time when we have institutional money flowing into cryptocurrencies. However, there are, as you said, a couple caveats with that story. There are a couple of details that we need to know. So let's dive into them. The TLDR, as we said, in December, there's going to be a shareholder vote on the BTC investment strategy of Microsoft. The first pushback of that is when it comes to the question who came up with that proposal. And it is a conservative think tank that proposes this 1% minimum Bitcoin investment assessment. The company board clearly advised against that proposal. It said the existing evaluation process is sufficient. There is already involvement in the blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. There's no need for that proposal. However, the counter argument to that is that if you look at who the biggest voters are, and I have a breakdown here that I'm sharing on screen, we look at the current shareholder composition, we see Vanguard is the largest stakeholder with 9.1%, followed by BlackRock with a 5.7% position. Then you have State Street, Fidelity, who also have massive positions. And clearly you could make the argument that both Vanguard and BlackRock, who together have 15% of the votes, actually have a vested interest to say, yeah, fuck it. Put 1% of the company reserve into a strategic BTC investment. Obviously, there are other considerations with that as well, but it's just interesting with those board votes to also take a look who actually has a lot to say in them. And then an additional note that maybe not everyone is familiar with, that you currently can actually use Bitcoin as a payment tool on Windows as well as on Xbox purchases. So again, Microsoft is already integrating cryptocurrency as a payment method. They do have plans, they do have integrations for that. This is probably also the reason why the board is pushing back on that and saying, hey, the existing infrastructure and evaluation processes are enough. We don't need this proposal, and we don't advise to vote in favor of it.
Fair enough. One follow-up question before we maybe go to Funky with his hand raised as well. When we say, and you might not know the answer to this, I'm not super familiar with how this stuff works, so it's more an open question. When we say like BlackRock and VanEck, I think it was VanEck you said as well, hold those positions, do we mean they individually hold it, or this is part of their fund, or is this people who buy in via their various ETFs and they then become the representatives who vote on their behalf? I wonder if you know that answer, or maybe Funky knows the answer.
Yeah, just to say on that, it's not VanEck, it's Vanguard.
Sorry, wrong.
The other one was BlackRock, as you said. It is held typically via investments in the companies, and that also depends on the company, how the vote looks. You have proxy voting systems that can be in place where basically that investment company can vote on behalf of the investors, and the internal processes for that can be different depending on the company, depending on the jurisdiction, basically as to what extent you need to ask shareholders what they would want to vote in, or to what extent you can basically determine yourself as the investment company how you want to take that vote. And I would assume that Funky has more details on that, on how it works with US-based companies, because I cannot speak to that.
Sure. Just one final piece of context. I don't know if we read this out earlier, but according to Tier 10K, the account that breaks all this news quite routinely, said the Microsoft board recommends voting against because they already evaluate a wide range of investable assets, including Bitcoin. So that seems to be the board's position at the moment. So look, it's cool that it's being proposed. I definitely don't, I'd take it with a pinch of salt with the fact that this is being reported as if it's going to happen in a couple of months' time. But Funky, you are a resident Bitcoin expert. Welcome to the stage, my friend. What are your thoughts on this Microsoft vote to invest in Bitcoin?
GM gang, I love the idea, right? And I didn't know the details behind it, so I got super excited when I saw that this was the actual headline for Modern Market. But yes, I laid it out. It is pretty much along those lines. Obviously, I only, I'm not in any funds that usually have that kind of structure. But as a Microsoft share owner, I will get to vote on this. I hardly ever, I never care about voting on those things because they're just almost a formality. It's a foregone conclusion, and I'm assuming it would be voted down. But I feel like just because it's a Web 2 form of decentralization where now shareholders who maybe are also bullish on Bitcoin could actually vote on that. And I think, and I don't know how serious this was, but I just recently saw in the last few days that Bill Gates said something like, I would short Bitcoin if it was an easy way to do it. And Michael Saylor basically blasted him and said, well, short MicroStrategy, you might as well be doing the same thing, kind of daring him to do it. So, I just feel like the whole thing is interesting. And just the fact that somebody was able to propose it, and it would be interesting, especially if some of these big funds like even if it were to lose, if BlackRock and Vanguard, YOLO, let's go, voted that would be amazing.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things to get a proper understanding of how things work. You need to get into the weeds of corporate governance, which I'm pretty sure no one on crypto Twitter actually wants to do. But for my time as a lawyer, when you get into the weeds of corporate governance, you start to realize that votes go it's the same as all political processes. There'll be certain people who decide the votes, they have the most, but there'll be reasons why they vote the way that they do. And they won't be immediately obvious from the outside. It'll be a very nuanced thing and based on personal perspectives and, personal interests. So, as I said, it's an interesting one. I do think maybe more broadly, and I think this was maybe an article published in the last 24 hours, or just thinking more broadly, I do think that there will be a greater trend of people moving Bitcoin onto the balance sheet in some way in the next 6 to 12 months. Whether it's now or whether it's later, I do think that's something that we'll see increasingly. Especially as it becomes easier, and this is maybe the final point of this, especially as it becomes easier with the number of stablecoin transactions going up, the number of stablecoins in circulation going up. I feel like once you get people on chain, then Bitcoin becomes one step quicker to access. If your money's in your bank account in whichever bank is your banking provider, it's pretty hard to get to Bitcoin, especially if you're going through a centralized exchange or in whatever capacity actually. But it becomes slightly easier once you go through the stablecoin route. Obviously, you've got the ETF route now as well, which is making it easier. But from a corporate perspective, when you've got a treasury in a bank account, I think this is a reasonable alternative option. Interesting thoughts there. Glad we brought that up and provided a little bit of the nuance that was required. Let's get into our second headline for today, which is the crypto exchange Kraken announces its own L2. Definitely want to throw to Brett on this, who is our L2 Ethereum expert. Brett, what's the lowdown here? Why should we be interested?
Scary to be the expert of anything in these streets, but I'll take it. Yeah, so Kraken, the centralized exchange, launched an L2. The interesting thing to note here is that it's actually part of the Optimism Superchain, right? So for people who aren't familiar, there's a shit ton of L2s, right? We have hundreds now. There's going to be thousands at some point. If the L2 shares a code base, right? Like if it's using this basically foundation shared with other L2s, there is hope that they would be able to interoperate. And if you commit to not only using the same code base, which means you can interact between each other, Base, Optimism, what's the other ones? Frame, like all these use the same, or not Frame, whatever. They're all in Optimism Superchain. They have a chance to interoperate, but if you commit into this thing called the Superchain, which is a subset of everything that uses that same code base, you actually share some of your revenues. And so what I did here was showing kind of the dominance of this particular cluster of clusters, right? So there's Arbitrum has a cluster, Optimism has a cluster, ZK Sync has a cluster. They all have code bases that would allow them to interoperate. And if you look at all the L2s that are currently launched today, Kraken opted to do OP Superchain, which makes up 50% of all L2s broadly, and then 25% of those go into the Superchain, which again, that is a subset of the OP code base that opts to share revenue amongst each other. And of that 25%, they make up, I think it's 58% of all fees across all L2s. So like this super cluster that makes up the Superchain is generating the majority of all fees across all L2s. And they all pool their funds into the OP collective to like fund stuff, buy OP, like, distribute amongst each other, all that shit. So it's pretty interesting. Kraken themselves in the L2 specifically, it's just basically going to be like a base clone. That's why like it's launched with that OP foundation. It uses Ethereum for DA. If people care about that, we've talked about blobs recently, whether or not you would use Ethereum or EigenDA or Celestia. They opted to use Ethereum. That's good for ETH asset, right? You want congestion there. Well, you don't want it, but it's a good sign for Ethereum. And they talk about how basically all apps are going to have their own chains. It's just now everyone's starting to talk about this world of everyone having an L2, and they're going to be analogous to websites. Basically, Kane had mentioned that, where everyone said in the 90s everyone would have a website and everyone called them batshit crazy. Well, he's telling everyone now everyone is going to have an L2, and like that is going to be the bull case for Ethereum long term.
That's crazy. So like one of the things we joked about at the beginning of the year was like, we said, oh, there's going to be so many L2s, modern market will have its own L2. And it's like, maybe we will. So I guess what people had thought previously is this is such a big lift. It's such a costly thing. Like people are raising millions of dollars in order to build L2s, right? And that just will not be the case moving forward from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even my perspective. That's just how it is, right? So the big pushback, there's a debate going on amongst these people launching chains. You had Luca talk about it. You had Andre Cronje, who launched Sonic. They're talking about all the costs of launching a chain, right? You have millions of dollars for Oracle support, for getting your bridges in place, and like they were throwing up these tabs of $10 to $15 million to do it. And then you have these things called roll-ups as a service providers. Gelato is one of them. Caldera is another one. These people have basically commoditized or serviced or productized the service of launching an L2. So you go to their desktop, you literally click a few buttons, say, I want to settle to Ethereum, I want to have an Oracle, I want to have a stablecoin integration, I want to have my bridge over here, and you can a couple clicks launch it. Go like, and the costs are measured in the thousands per month build, as opposed to like these tens of millions of dollars that people are speculating. And so that's only going to go down, right? Because there's multiple roles as a service providers, and they're all going to compete for cost, and they're going to get better at it. And number goes down, chains go up.
Interesting. That's really, really interesting. And I think very, very important to understand as the debate continues to rage on, not just within the Ethereum community of how things should move forward, but also as we try to compare Ethereum versus Solana. So that's really, really helpful. I've got another question, but I want to just throw to Legendary first, see if you have any insights on this before I hit Brett with the final one.
I mean, if you think about it from the infrastructure perspective, it's kind of replicating what we've seen with Web2 infrastructure, with server infrastructure, right? In the early days, it was unimaginable to run a website yourself. Then everyone's running a website, everyone's running their own service. Then you had cloud providers like AWS, etc., dominating and basically offering that as a service. And it's pretty intuitive to see a very similar process being replicated in Web3.
Okay. I like that comparison. A question here, Brad. People, you speak about the superchain. That's obviously done. Optimism is how would you describe it? The creators of the superchain?
They're the genesis of it. Yeah.
Yeah, the genesis of it. So all of these L2s, or many of them, not all of them, many of them, including Shape, for example, who we work with on one time a week, they're kind of feeding into the superchain all the time.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, not necessarily only from a price perspective, but as we're trying to determine where, people talk about the fractured liquidity in ETH. Oh, this money's going everywhere because the value is going everywhere. It seems to be one of the consistent things that it continues to have value accrued to it. If it isn't ETH itself, it's the optimism chain via this super chain functionality that it has. I'm just looking at the price action for the people who might be interested over the last 3 months. It's fairly safe. I mean, I think it had a big distribution when it went down from 178 down to 120, and this was 3 months ago.
And you're speaking of OP specifically, yeah?
Yes. So this is the OP token, but since then it's risen back from 120 all the way back to 172. This is nowhere near the highs from even just the top of the year. It went as high as $3, $4 actually at the top of the year. So it's still quite far down based on that. They obviously still have multiple distributions as the years go on. They have these like retroactive grants and things like that.
Yep.
But I'm wondering if like OP is actually capturing a lot of the value and it's kind of lost in the middle when people keep talking about the main ETH price.
Yeah, and I would say the reason that's not totally tied to OP, the token, is because there's a huge educational gap between what's going on with the actual code base and how that translates to OP. It's like OP, like the token, I think it's on like 43% are like distributed right now. So you have a shit ton more that's locked that is going to be coming in these retroactive grants. So like you have that constant emissions that's meant for public goods funding. But I've been working with Wyatt, not Superfizz, I forget his handle, FFizz, I think, who's on the Optimism team, and they're trying to educate the ecosystem about how all of these chains doing all of this awesome stuff is actually translating like showing the dominance of OP, right? Because I don't think people really understand it. Making up all these numbers. Yeah, so he created a dashboard. That's where I pulled these numbers from. Whenever he had made a tweet about it, I reached out to him like, dude, you need to like, no one knows this shit. You need to like give me a dashboard. I can just go to a website and see like how dominant you guys are. And they have it now. It's still a Google sheet. It's not very it's very noisy. There's a lot of information, but it's very noisy. It's not very, very succinct. But yeah, it's all in there. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of things pointing to OP specifically. And yeah, I think it's like 3.5% or of revenue, or there's another thing. And it's like the greater of the two. All these chains option in the super chain have to give to the collective to then do whatever.
Very, very interesting. I like that. I picked that up. I like that you agreed with me. I like that there's some kind of conversation going on at OP about this data that they need to get out there, because I think there's something going on there, as I said, very under discussed, if not just not discussed at all. Nothing is being discussed about that. So I think that's an interesting thing to point out and for people to be aware of. Legendary, any final points on this segment before we roll into the next one?
Yeah, I think Brett said it perfectly right. The educational aspect about that, about understanding kind of the role that the super chain would play, or that all those like chain conglomerates, even if you look at ZK Sync, for example, and the families of chains in their play, and how liquidity can be less fragmented within the same kind of quote unquote chain family, and how that liquidity can also be pooled to basically allow for better trading experience, even for the smaller chains who then become a part of those families. It's definitely something where there's not a lot of education out there yet, and not a lot of understanding how those chain families, if you want to call them like that, work.
Well, I think it'd be helpful for them to do some more education, and Modern Market is available to do some of that education. Like we've just done some of that education for them. But as you say, they need to tell that story better, because I just keep hearing the super chain. I keep hearing how good it is. And so my sensors have gone off on the super chain, basically. Right. We'll keep monitoring that as usual. Final headline for the day is GP2, back to AI. GP2 token runs to a $45 million market cap, with a rumor that the OpenAI founder Sam Altman was somehow involved via a alt account. It then proceeded to crash down furiously to a $2 million market cap. Legendary, break down what was going on here. You are in the trenches. What on earth is going on with GPT-2?
Yeah, that's the ticker that kept me up until like 3 a.m. yesterday. I'm sharing a picture of the chart on the screen that basically shows a coin that launched yesterday, shortly before 9 p.m. UTC. Took 3 hours to shoot up from 0 to almost 45 mil, and now is back all the way down to 1 mil. And there's obviously a story to that. And you started to paint a bit of color on it. Gorilla actually who's a creator in the space and also focusing on meme coins as of lately, has shared a bit more on the story on that. So what happened is we had an account, GPT-2 chatbot, who posted the contract address, who posted that meme coin. People noticed one thing about that, and it is that it is followed by the official ChatGPT app account. So they were like, oh, and started to speculate, OpenAI is not a nonprofit anymore. They can't like launch a token. But what if they do like a secret token launch via Pump Fund? That could be the thing. Additional fuel basically was added to that fire by this account that I'm currently highlighting on stream on screen. I Rule the World, which is the account that many people seem to think that could be Sam's alleged alt account. Started to post, this is the next goat killer, engaging with Sam Altman's main account. All of that hype basically created insane volume to an extent that I haven't seen before, and many other people who have asked haven't seen before. Like, it kind of showed the hunger to have a goat-like story. We had 7 million, 8 million volume on 5-minute candles. It was absolutely absurd to see basically 20 to 30 million swings within seconds. Like, you had bots who were feasting that night, but just trading in and out of that within seconds. And what then happened is that the spaces started, hosted by Muzzy Vermillion, Jing Tao, another creator who's like very prominent in the meme space. We covered Jing Tao when it came to Shoggoth, the meme coin that successfully basically fought off the Wintermute vampire attack that was partly due to Jing Tao's reach on that. And he said, nah, that's not Sam Altman's alt. He's not behind that. Then that post started to, or that alleged alt account started to post more and more things and saying that, there's something coming in 1 hour, blah, blah. And people are like, okay, this doesn't really fit the narrative, the GPT-2 thing out right now. Token dump to 30 million. Then Muzzy Vermillion in the space said, look, I basically deleted that post. You guys do whatever you want. It had another final run up back to 36 mil, and basically in one clip went down to 3 mil. And over the last couple of hours, lost another 66% and is now trading at $1 million.
Wonderful. What a story. Look, I think on some level, the details of that, although that was like a super interesting, detailed summary, and I appreciate you for breaking it down, because it's important to like figure out like what are the incendiary factors when it comes to this stuff. Like, at the moment, it definitely seems to be a thing that I've noticed even people in the trenches say in like random Telegrams chats. One of the things that people are looking for is like, this count is followed by this count. Like, just for people to know that that is legit one of the trading signals at the moment on a coin early is like, if Andrew Kang is following the account and the ticker's at like a 1 million market cap, that's a buy signal. Like, that's actually how people are making these trades at the moment based on multiple sources. So that is interesting to note. But beyond that, I think the thing that I'm taking away from this, when you just zoom out just a little bit, is this is 100% the same as the NFT summer that we had. Like, when people would pile into a collection because they thought Beeple was the creator, or when they thought that someone was the creator and they conducted all of these interesting extrapolations of how this person's connected to that person, and therefore this collection is actually by someone, prices would pump crazy and then come down pretty rapidly after. So like if there's any confusion as to where we are, or like where the liquid, well, there's no confusion as to where the liquidity is because everyone knows it's in meme coins now, but the velocity with which this stuff is moving and the opportunity that's around, like it's here right now. And I know a lot of people came in from our space and our community from like NFTs in 2021, and I know there's a lot of people who are like anti meme coins because it just it's not as cool as what NFTs represented. But if you want to participate in the financial aspect of this universe, like that is where it is right here, right now. It's 100% happening. These things are getting run up from like nothing to 4 or 5 million every single day. And then every now and again, one of those 4 will go to 20 or 30. Like this is just outrageous wealth creation. And yeah, of course there's insiders pumping it. Of course it's not a fair game. Of course it's hyper risky. So were NFTs in some ways, especially when it got hyper speculative. So my key conclusion, I wanted to know where you guys think on this, is just like, this is it. Like if you wanted to play for that reason, this is where you're playing right here, right now. 6-7 coins are moving every single night. So if you want to play, it's time to play. Brad, what are you thinking?
And I'd honestly like to hear Legendary's perspective on this as someone that's like recently decided to get in, because I'm still in the position where like I'm fine watching. Like I don't need the wealth creation that you're talking about. I like the sleep. I like the balance. I like I don't need that stuff. But you're absolutely right. I was thinking the same thing when he was describing. It's like, yeah, like this is what everyone else felt like. The DeFi old heads felt like when they saw the NFT stuff going ridiculous. Like I don't relate to that. I don't have like that. I don't have to do it. I'll watch whatever. So I'd be curious to hear Legendary's like early. Because like you see the numbers and like you don't see the 150,000 others that go straight to zero. That's really tough to 100%. Hit, right? So yeah, how does it feel dipping your toes in?
Yeah, no, look, that's a good question, because I'm honestly surprised it took so long to do that, because I had, zero resistance to trade the DeFi summer on Binance and ape into every liquidity pool that gave you $1 billion APY for the first couple of minutes. Take a 2, 3x, 10x, whatever out of that, move on to the next DeFi protocol. Exactly the same thing. B said it, exactly the same thing with NFTs. I remember that phase in the market where there was this rumor that the original artist of Bored Apes wasn't like paid well enough. And then they launched a secret collection with the original Bored Ape artist that they're going to support. And the velocity at which these things were moving was super slow. Like you got into a collection, you went to sleep, you woke up, you were up. It was the same with Nifty Gateway. You bought people, open edition. I bought it at 900, what was it, $969. Next morning, it was at 3K, then it was at 10K, then it moved up like over a longer period of time to 100K. You had a lot of time to like space this trade. And meme coins kind of made this hyper efficient. Like, yes, you sacrifice sleep, but basically you can know the result of your trade in most cases before you go to sleep, right? So you can basically choose to sacrifice a day, 2 nights, 3 nights a week. You have those runners every day. Like yesterday, you had even more than one. You not only had GPT-2, you had Project 89, which was one that I got into at 2 mil. It shot up to 20 mil. You take your 10x, you keep a moon bag. You think it can do like another, 10x on that, 100x, whatever. But you basically have the velocity in the market to, if you like that style, to do a trade within minutes, even sometimes within seconds. Like there was another thing where the test token launched yesterday, which was posted by the co-founder of Solana, and it bonded, which is the process when it forms a liquidity pool in Radium once it hits 60K market cap. And the second after that, it shot up to 3 mil. Then people saw the tweet. I bought in. The second after that, it doubled up to 8 mil. I took out my 2x. The Solana co-founder, who some people were saying was hacked, maybe whatever was going on, deleted the post. It went to zero basically in a minute after that. So you can be super, super like speedy about those trades if it's a thing that you like. But there's also this thing that I started to notice more. There's groups who don't like those things, and they like to do the longer term plays. They like to have, what was a token that corrected down? Doesn't matter. Like an AI token corrected down 60% over the last couple of days, 80%, you buy in, you hold it for another 2 days. It might go up. People who played Modang on the Binance listings, because there were rumors of that as well, after another Binance future listing on Goat yesterday. So there's ways to play it slower, but there's also ways to play it like in a very, very stressful environment. But it's interesting to see like how all those different bull cycles that follow one another just add more velocity and more efficiency to those markets. And this is kind of where also the AI component comes in, right? Because you not only have AI creating content, you have more and more sophisticated trading bots that you also had with minting stuff with the gas wars, but it wasn't as dominant as it seems to be now, that you often have, especially when you have a lot of volume and you have those like 5 million up and down clips, you just know there's a lot of AI bots basically PvPing and trading that. And that's very fascinating to observe how this velocity is increasing more and more.
See, Brad, you just do it. You just do it quickly and then you go to bed. You make the trade.
You know how
10
you know
seconds
I'm
later,
getting
you close
old?
the trade, then you go to bed.
He's talking about all this stuff. I'm like, dude, the taxing, like the tax accounting for that as an American citizen, my God.
Even that's not worth it.
Dude, like all the transactions have to go back over. Like it would be insane.
This is why
Especially with Juke now, you can have a DCA in and out and stuff. Oh,
yeah, this is why I'm so happy that the Austrian government said, look, crypto to crypto is not taxable. We can process degens who show up with a 100K transaction record. When you move to fiat, we slap capital gains on that. But crypto to crypto, do whatever you want. It's not taxable. Because otherwise, I agree. If I were in the previous Austrian jurisdiction, I wouldn't do that and produce 100,000 transactions and just fuck myself by doing so.
There we go. Look, I think that's pretty insightful stuff. Maybe the final learning there is that, yes, this stuff, you definitely do not see all the hundreds, if not thousands at the moment, that are just going to zero, all of the losses. Lots of people talk about the wins and the 2x's, the 3x's, the 10x's or more. Very few stories about losing it all and how much has been lost in order to even to make that gain. So, you know, being completely transparent, that obviously is happening as well. So be mindful of that if you're playing that game. Funky, a final thought from you. Saw you with your hand raised as we close out the show for the week.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Legendary, get some sleep, because I feel like you're not sleeping at all. But what I was gonna say, what's super interesting was last night at that panel with Kathy Wood leading the discussion, memes even came up, and it had nothing to do, like there was no point was that supposed to be on the topic. But the NFT artist Fernanda, who was on there, she was talking about sort of this shift that you guys were just going over, sort of where all the capture of the attention was all about NFTs, and now it's all become about memes, and especially AI in the most recent thing. And I just never expect that was like a left field thing that just I couldn't believe they were discussing that on a panel being led by Kathy Wood. So memes creeping into just the culture more broadly, I think, is just really interesting about what's happening and what this is all going to lead to in this run.
Love it. Appreciate that little update, Funky. And that's it, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. Thanks to Legendary and Brad for co-hosting. Thanks to Funky for his contributions as always. And thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care. We will see you on the other side. Goodbye.